Hi, I'm Mike Leach, State Director for the South Carolina Department of Social Services.
And I'm Sarah Goldsby, Director of the South Carolina Department of Alcohol and Other Drug Abuse Services.
It is great to be with Sarah and learning about the work that they do at DAODAS and the work that we do at DSS and how we work together in a lot of our program areas, and our Don't Risk It, Think Before You Drink campaign that we are excited to have launched, and we're going to continue to make really good content for that campaign.
Yeah.
So tell me about addiction and how do you diagnose, understand, learn about addiction?
Yeah, understanding addiction is a question that we get a lot, oftentimes by people and family members and folks who want to identify it in someone they know or are close to. And so addiction or substance use disorders really have a set of criteria that define them as a diagnosis, and they can look very severe or sometimes very mild as someone develops a dependency and a need to either drink alcohol or consume drugs. Oftentimes, primarily we're seeing folks who want to stop or are unable to stop drinking or using substances, and that dependency and need to consume more is really one of the first defining aspects of a substance use disorder or addiction.
Wow, okay. And that's interesting as it leads into our work at DSS, where a large percent of the families that come to our attention through the child welfare side have a substance use as an identifying factor for that child being in the system, whether abuse or neglect.
Right.
So it's important to understand the diagnosis and understand what the meaning is so that we can figure out how to address it, right?
Right. And I think, something that's important to remember is that addiction or a substance use disorder is a chronic relapsing brain disease that people can recover from, but really there is no cure for. And almost always, the brain has changed in a fundamental and structural way that requires treatment and different bio and psychosocial supports so that people can recover from this fundamental chronic disease.
So let me ask you a question. As far as our professionals go, who are working with families and the children who have addictions or substance abuse disorders, what should they do with is there providing hope? Is that something that you should be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. We have almost 500,000 South Carolinians in recovery from substance use disorder who are living fulfilled lives, in full recovery from addiction. And so there is hope. People can and do recover. I think, on the front end of things, when we're seeing people behave in ways that are harmful to themselves or others, those behaviors are really symptoms of their substance use disorder, symptoms of the disease, and they're really hard to explain because they are so unexplained.
Yeah.
And so as we understand substance use disorder or addiction in the disease model, we're better able to understand how we address it.
Yeah, no, that's great, because I constantly am trying to figure out how we provide support to families and bring hope to families and listen and learn and, say, we can do this together. We can help you figure this out.
Oh, absolutely. And part of that is understanding the science of addiction. The other part of that is understanding that there are supports and that there is help and that there is hope, and people do recover their lives, recover their family status, recover their situation in their social circumstances, and live fulfilled lives.
Awesome. That's great.